Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about the proposal to launch India's first private satellite launch vehicle in the upcoming date. And the satellite launch vehicle has been given the name of Vikram-S. So we are going to discuss in details what is this Vikram-S, what are its major characteristics, major properties, as well as we are going to discuss about that what is the need for such private satellite launch vehicle to exist in the first place. So again, as far as our today's agenda of discussion is concerned, introduction, then we are going to discuss about the mission Prarambh. We are going to discuss also about the features of this Vikram space launch vehicle, the need of launch vehicle, the satellite launch in India, how it is carried out and how it is changing in the recent times, and also what is the future ahead as far as the launch of satellites in the India, and not only in India, even at the world, at the global stage or global level is concerned. So first of all, the reason why we are discussing today's issue is because India's first privately developed launch vehicle is set to make its maiden flight from the ISRO's launch pad located at Sriharikota somewhere in the next week. Now, the exact date has not been finalized, but it is believed that somewhere between November 12 and November 16, the launch will be carried out. Sriharikota is basically an island that is situated on the eastern coast of India nearby the Pulicat Lake. The mission of Hyderabad-based Skyroot Aerospace. Now, this name is very, very important because it is the Skyroot, a private organization, Skyroot Aerospace, which is responsible for the mission Prarambh, that roughly translates into English as the beginning. The mission will carry two Indian as well as one foreign customer payload on the launch vehicle that is named as the Vikram. So let us try to understand in detail about what this mission Prarambh is all about. So as far as the mission Prarambh is concerned, this is the first time that India's private satellite launch vehicle is being launched by ISRO's station, and this satellite will carry three customer satellites in an orbit that is called as flight, suborbital flight or suborbital orbit. The rocket that will carry this satellite will be a single stage suborbital launch vehicle. The single stage rocket basically refers to a rocket where all the fuel is propelled or all the fuel basically is burned in a single stage in the first stage. One of the major satellites that will be carried out by this particular launch vehicle is named as FunSat. A FunSat is just a very, very small, we can say 2.5 kg of payload that was developed by students in collaboration, the students from India, US, Singapore, as well as Indonesia. The FunSat, we can say the payload has been basically developed by an organization that is called as Space Kids, which is a startup that is based in the Chennai. Now, what is a suborbital flight or what does it mean? That is what we have to understand here in more detail. So, as far as the suborbital flight or trajectory is concerned, this is something or somehow the trajectory suborbital flight trajectory look like. So, as you can see, if a launch vehicle or if any rocket is launched from the Earth, then it takes a parabolic trajectory and then again fall backs on the earth surface. The reason is simple, because the rocket do not have sufficient orbital velocity of 28,000 kilometers per hour. Now suppose we launch any object from space, any object from the earth, and it has a velocity higher than 28,000 kilometers per hour, then this will go into the outer space and will keep on orbiting around the earth. However, in the case the orbital velocity is less than 28,000 km per hour, the projectile will go in the parabolic path and again will fall back on the surface of the earth. That means it will not be able to complete any orbit around the earth. So that is the kind or the nature of rocket that will be used for this particular Vikram-S. So any object traveling slower than 28,000 km per hour must eventually return to the earth, as we have discussed, and any object that launches to space but does reach sufficient horizontal velocity to stay in space falls back to the earth. Hence, they fly in a suborbital trajectory. Now, what is a space? That is the most important thing, because we do not have any exact definition that where does our atmosphere or troposphere ends and where does our outer space begin. But as far as the outer space is concerned, generally 100-kilometer distance or 100-kilometer height from the Earth's surface is considered as the margin or the boundary dividing the troposphere or dividing the atmosphere of the Earth and the outer space. Now, what is the significance of this suborbital flight? So, first of all, it is believed that if suborbital flight is being carried out, it will increase the flight access for design innovation as well as the experimental manipulation. Second, it will help a great deal in microgravity research, because many times many experiment that has to be conducted cannot be conducted on the earth because of the strong gravitational pull of the earth, and especially experiment that is related to particle physics, experiment related to quantum physics, as well as experiment related to the we can say biology, growth of plants, and geology itself also require microgravity environment. So such kind of suborbital flight will also be helpful in that situation. Third, also we can understand that it will be very cost effective, because the cost of preparation of such a small satellite launch vehicle is very less as compared to normal conventional satellite launch vehicle. And fourth, currently if we talk about to simulate zero gravity environment, companies basically or a space agency basically use aeroplanes that fly in a parabolic path, and thus you have a feeling of zero gravity. That means you feel that the gravity is absent, its value is almost negligible. So this kind of suborbital flight can be a very good alternative to the parabolic flights in the aeroplane. So these are some of the major benefits that we can derive if suborbital flight become a reality and become a norm in the coming days. Now, first of all, we have to understand that this satellite launch vehicle has been called or named as Vikram because it is a tribute to the Vikram Sarabhai, who was the pioneer of India's space program. So, the major features that Vikram carries with itself is, first of all, as we have discussed, this Vikram has been developed by an organization called as Skyroot, and it is the first startup in India that has signed a MOU, that is Memorandum of Understanding, with ISRO for launching its rocket. As far as Vikram is concerned, it comes in three forms: Vikram first, second, and the third. Now, the main advantage such satellite launch vehicle gives to us is because it is believed that in coming decades, at least 20,000 small satellites is projected to be launched by India, and thus such kind of like Vikram satellite launch vehicle, after mass producibility and affordability, can make this a reality. Also, Vikram is last with multi-orbit insertion. That means you can place satellites into different orbit, multiple orbits. Also, it can take part in interplanetary mission, which is customized, dedicated, and also they'll have a ride share option. That means suppose if anyone or any organization want to launch a single satellite or two satellites, then it is not possible in today's time to launch one or two small satellites, and that is why they have to wait for some larger satellites to be launched, and then they basically share the ride with the larger satellite. However, with the launch or with the success of such satellite launch vehicle like Vikram, it will also be even possible to put all the different small satellites into a single rocket and send into the space, and that is why they will not have to wait for the larger satellite to be launched in the future time. And the last and the most important feature that Vikram offers is that it can be assembled and launched within 24 hours from any launch site. That means the time taken for the launch is very less as compared to any conventional launch vehicle, because it takes months and months of preparation before launch can be finalized, because the risk is also higher, and also as far as the cost is concerned, it is quite higher if some error has to take place. So that is why SLV or this Vikram satellite launch vehicle can become a very good alternative. So what is the need for Vikram? So first of all, we have to understand that we have a group of satellites whose weight ranges from 5 kg to 1000 kg. Such group of satellites are called as a small satellite. The problem is that small satellites, as we have discussed before, the timeline of the launch of the small satellites would be dictated by the larger primary satellite whose interest would take precedence. As we have discussed before, that small satellite cannot be launched individually. They have to wait for a bigger satellite to be launched, and then they can share the ride with this bigger satellite. But again, they have to wait that when this bigger satellite is going to be launched in the future, and that is only when they can launch the smaller satellite. But with the launch of Vikram, or with the Vikram being a reality, a smaller satellites will not have to face the constant constraints of the piggyback ride. And this is very important, because if you look at the last 8 and 10 years of data information, also in the upcoming decade there has been abundant increase or significant increase in the number of a small satellite that has been launched into the space. And this is true not only from the perspective of India, but also from the global perspective. And the reason is very clear, because a lot of businesses today, a lot of organizations are there, a lot of universities are there, they are more interested in exploring and taking help of the outer space, and that is why the demand for such a small size, a small satellite launch vehicle is going to increase in the future. So the need for satellite data, imagery as well as space technology now cuts across sectors. It is not that only one sector is using the information from the outer space, but all sectors such as weather forecasting or weather phenomena, for understanding when or how the cyclones will hit any particular place, to understand the wind velocity or the wind pattern, as far as also agriculture sector to understand the crop production or to understand the crop intensity of a given area, to understand how irrigation can be, water can be best utilized for irrigation purposes, as well as even in transport to urban development. So multiple sectors, plethora of sectors are there where satellite data and the imageries are being utilized, and that is why these all will need small satellites in the future time. Now, as far as current situation is concerned, we are heavily dependent on ISRO for launching of satellites. And the demand, however, for the launch of satellite is fast outrunning the capacity of the ISRO in terms of its launch vehicle. And especially as a space agency, now ISRO is also foraying into the areas and has much larger, much bigger goal it needs to focus on, and that is why the time is ripe that as far as the launch procedure is concerned, it can be outsourced, or ISRO can associate itself with some other private organizations, and that is why it had signed MOU with Sky. The sector is also being opened up to private players, with ISRO helping them with the facilities and knowledge, because ISRO has such a huge knowledge, such a huge experience of launching different types of satellite, and that is why we can understand also from the statement that was given by Skyroot CEO that we could build and get our Vikram-S rocket mission ready in such a short time only because of the invaluable support we received from the ISRO and in space. So basically, ISRO can act as a supporting agency in the coming decade, especially as far as the small satellites and the launch of these satellites are concerned. The use of first facilities also, it will be advantageous for ISRO as well, because when it is helping or it is allowing the private organization to use the facilities of ISRO, it will be chargeable, and thus ISRO will also provide it with the additional sources of revenue and does not have to depend only on the government finances, only on the government revenues, and thus it can take other tasks as well as far as the exploration of the outer space is concerned. So basically, what we can say in the conclusion that if the Vikram's successful launch occurs, it will mark a very big step for India's space exploration sector. And in fact, Skyroot on its website claims that if it becomes successful, launching of satellite to space will soon become as easy as booking a cab, quick, precise, and affordable. And that is what actually future needs. So that is all for this particular video. I hope you understood the concept behind India's first private space launching vehicle and why it is the need of the hour. If you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with your fellow aspirant, as well as subscribe for our channel for more content. That is all for this particular video. Thank you very much.